next step in the process is working the case. We're going to be viewing this from two personas. The first being the coordinator that reviews that we've received all the information and the data is correct. And then we're going to send it over to a specialist who's going to do the investigation work to resolve this appeal. The first step in the process to actually work the document is to log into OnBase. We have a link on our desktop that actually lets us jump right into a My Work dashboard. So instead of having to dig through filters to find the work that they're looking for, it takes them right to a single interface where all their work is presented to them in a singular way. Right at the top, you can see the expedited cases, the most important cases that need to be processed, and standard cases. Down below, we can even present the user with those cases that are falling in within a specific deadline. So say for expedited cases, within 1 day, or standard cases within 5 days. Up above, we're going to go ahead and work this particular case. I'm going to pop it open. The first thing for me to do is to just verify that I have all my documents in order. In the bottom right hand corner here, you can see that I have all my documents. I have my insurance card, my HIPAA card, my ID card, all my appropriate information. If I also want to verify that there are no duplicate cases out here, I can open that original claim, view the claim to see if all my information is available. I can see down below that I don't have any other appeals except for the one that was just submitted, so I'm good to go on that. I'm going to go right back to the appeal itself, and from this point I can actually review if all the member and provider information is there and available and filled in properly. I can view if there's an authorized representative working on behalf of this particular member. In this case, I see that there isn't. I'm going to go back to the case, and from here I can verify if the SLA is actually set appropriately. So for expedited claims, they need to be within a certain time period. Now, the first thing I need to do is actually perform a task. And this task is to call back to the person and to follow up that we actually did receive this particular appeal. So say I actually get a hold of the person, I call them up and I get a hold of them. I'll be able to take note of that information by filling in my note here. I'll say I actually called the person. I did reach them successfully, but if I didn't reach them, OnBase can still record all of those transactions appropriately. But because I was able to call the person, unfortunately they answered, I can fill in the fact that I did, save my form, and close this particular task out. So to close this task out, I go to my task tab, hit call complete. And it doesn't just end there. One requirement we got from Medical Mutual of Ohio was the fact that we wanted to send documentation, send a letter back to the member saying, we actually did get your appeal, we gave you a call, and here's just information just letting you know that that happened. Once I hit accept here, it'll generate that letter, which can be printed out. It'll get tied back to that OnBase record itself, and we'll have that as part of our documentation for this particular transaction. Once I've completed my task of calling the person, I can then route it to a specialist for further review. I can do this by going to tasks and routing to my specialist. And it knows that based on the fact that I've selected the pharmaceutical option in my case type earlier, it'll route it to the appropriate specialist. You'll see that once I've clicked that button, it'll actually complete my task and then create a new task for the medical director, Andrew Lincoln. So to process their work, we're actually going to fire off an email notification telling them that they have work to do. And that email notification will just present them simply with a link that they can click on that takes them to the task that they're supposed to work on. Once they click that task, opens up OnBase, takes them to the task that they need to work on. From here, they can review the claim and enter notes as appropriate. So in this case, as we do our review in other systems, maybe my prescription system, maybe I do some lookups, do a little bit of research, I can clearly see that they don't actually meet the requirements for this particular prescription. So, to just punch in some notes about that, I can go in here, click my task notes pane, fill in information, document my transaction, document my research, and tie it back to the record itself. this case, I'm just going to indicate that this is dangerous and I would recommend an alternative drug. So to kind of move this along in the process, I've now made my decision. I'm going to go ahead and hit task upheld up above. This doesn't necessarily close out the case. It'll then route it back to the coordinator to just verify that all my moving parts are in order and I have all my documentation correct. So I'm going to go ahead, jump right into OnBase, find that case that I've worked on. If I flip over to this task pane, you'll see that Andrew Lincoln completed his task, so I know that he's made his determination on the document. In this case, that determination is that this case was actually upheld. Once I verify that all the other pieces of this document are in a row, the member information, the proper documentation, I can go ahead and also hit uphold to just move this along in the process. It'll then generate a document indicating to the person, indicating to the member that this is the result of the research. So in this case, unfortunately, we're upholding our original decision. We're not going to be able to cover the drug that they're looking for and provide them with all of that sort of stuff. One other thing we can also do is output a packet for independent review later on. So we can then generate and take all the information from this case and stick it into a single document that can be mailed or emailed to an independent reviewer. An example of this can be seen by popping into Microsoft Outlook here, and we actually kick out a letter as an email and send it to the inbox. So from here I can double click on that letter, and you can see I've taken all of the pieces, including the original confirmation call that we made, along with other pieces of information and the data tied to this record, all onto a single document.